When I first saw this apartment, it seemed more than just a place to live. It was my refuge from the hustle and stress of moving to a new city and starting a new job. It was ideally located on a quiet street, away from the hustle and bustle, and its spacious bright room seemed like an invitation to cozy evenings after a long day of work. When I first entered this house, I felt that here I could find peace and tranquility, that this place would help me adjust to my new life and find my place in this big, unfamiliar city. But as soon as I began to settle into my new home, strange things began to happen. The first few weeks in my new apartment went seemingly perfectly. I started my new job with great enthusiasm, consumed by the looming challenges and opportunities. I would return home in the evenings, filled with a sense of accomplishment, and set about organizing my new abode. I loved creating a cozy atmosphere in every corner of the apartment, placing furniture, selecting decorations. And on my free weekends, I would go for walks, exploring the neighborhood, admiring the architecture of the streets, and getting to know the locals. However, as it often happens, the joy of new beginnings was overshadowed by strange and incomprehensible events. At first, they were just strange dreams that I could not remember clearly after waking up. I neglected them, attributing them to the stress of a new job and adapting to a new place of residence. But gradually the dreams became more and more realistic and frightening. Shadows, as if shrouded in black smoke, flickered in the corners of my room, as if calling me into their darkness. The faces I saw in my dreams were disfigured by fear and despair, their eyes expressing worry and anxiety. Every morning I woke up in a sweat, with my heart pounding frantically in my chest, as if it wanted to jump out. And often the feeling that something ominous was waiting for me in the darkness never left me, even during the day. I tried hard to convince myself that all this was just the result of stress, accompanying the new changes in my life. After all, moving to a new city and starting a new job is a major stressor for anyone. I tried not to pay attention to these strange dreams, trusting that in time they will stop, as a simple manifestation of the adaptation period. But every day my nightmares became more and more vivid and realistic, as if they penetrated into the deepest depths of my subconscious. I felt that something invisible was watching me, following my every move, penetrating the darkest corners of my being. This sense of looming threat became an integral part of my daily life, and I began to wonder if it was not just stress and some monstrous fantasies, but something more real and frightening. And then, like in my worst nightmare, one day I saw him. That moment is forever etched in my memory, as if it left an indelible trail of fear and terror. I woke up in the middle of the night, overwhelmed by the feeling that someone was watching me. My heart beat faster, and the air seemed thicker, full of unspeakable tension. As I looked into the dark corner of the bedroom, I saw him, a ghostly figure that shrank out of the darkness, as if it had grown out of the night itself. The ghost I saw in my room was about 6 feet tall, making him slightly taller than me. Its shape was indefinite and distorted, as if it were composed of dark clouds or smoke, continually changing shape and contours. The ghost's facial features were distorted and indeterminate, as if they were blurred by darkness. There was no way to distinguish specific facial features or expressive details, but I could feel its gaze, through which bottomless madness and fear pervaded. It stood there motionless, radiating a terrible cold energy that engulfed my body even at a distance. My heart seemed to stop, my mind refusing to perceive what was happening, as if trying to protect me from the sheer horror of the sight. I tried to scream, crying out for help or at least to dispel this nightmare, but my lips would not yield to my will. I was paralyzed with fear, as if locked in my own body, a silent witness to the nightmare that unfolded before me. To my horror, the figure began to move slowly toward my bed, like a shadow floating smoothly through the air. Paralyzed with fear, I couldn't continue to stay in this cursed room. My only thought was rescue, survive, escape from this sinister creature that seemed to lurk in the darkest corners of my mind. Without a second thought, I jumped out of bed, feeling my skin break out in a cold sweat, and ran to the door in a spurt. My hand shook as I grabbed the knob and opened it sharply without turning back. A faint light from the hallway penetrated the room, casting dark shadows on the walls. I ran out into the hallway, closing the door behind me, but even that step didn't calm my fluttering nerves. I felt like the shadow was following me, that it was after me, always, everywhere. I rushed down the stairs, ignoring any noise that might draw the neighbor's attention. I needed to hide, to get somewhere where she wouldn't get me. Running towards the exit of the house, I opened the door to the street abruptly and ran outside. Feeling the cool night air greet me, my legs carried me forward as if on their own, searching for any shelter that could protect me from this nightmare that was haunting me. I wandered the streets until morning, immersed in my thoughts and trying to find some explanation for everything that was happening. The night was dark and silent, and my mind was filled with nothing but dark images and fear. But even as dawn began to color the sky in delicate shades of pink, I still felt that the shadow was haunting me, that the threat was still out there somewhere. When I finally got home, my heart was beating like crazy as I stood in front of my apartment door. I knew I couldn't stay here anymore, that this place was cursed and I had to leave it forever. Every step toward my room felt incredibly heavy and agonizing. My heart was beating so fast that I could feel it throbbing in my ears, and a wave of cold fear was building in my chest. I knew that something sinister lurked behind this door, that I had seen a ghostly figure here in the past that had forced me to leave this apartment. As I approached the door, I stopped for a moment, hesitating as if between two worlds, the world of safety and the world of nightmares. My hand trembled as I gripped the knob, as if preparing myself for something unknown and terrible. Opening the door, I entered the room with a wary eye, expecting to see something horrible. But to my relief, the room seemed ordinary and empty, shrouded only by the soft light from the window. Still, I could feel the fear still holding me in its grasp, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the feeling that something dark and sinister still lurked in the shadows. With trepidation in my hands, I began to gather my belongings, throwing them into my backpack with speed, sometimes not even noticing what was flying into the bag. My hand was shaking, but I was determined to go forward, even if it meant leaving everything behind that door. When the last item was hidden in my backpack, I slowly rose to my feet, looking around as if saying goodbye to this place. My heart was full of mixed feelings, fear, relief, but also hope for a new beginning. I walked out of the apartment, closing the door behind me,